This is one of the most iconic, sensational and awe-inspiring motorcycles ever produced.
It really is, and this particular one is built in 1980, so it's almost 45 years old, and it's incredible how it's still jaw-dropping to this day. And you can win this very motorcycle, so more on that in a minute, but let's get into it.
In 2024, the year we're filming this video, Honda are known for producing reliable, dependable motorcycles, but let's face it, a little bit boring, certainly to look at. So going back in time to 1980, Honda were making some of the most iconic and amazing motorcycles in the world.
And this one being the CBX1000, this has a 6-cylinder 1000cc engine. It's absolutely bonkers, and you would not see anything like this in today's motorcycles, would you?
Not at all.
It wouldn't get through the regulations for a start, but as something that is completely and utterly bonkers and creates so much sense of occasion, I don't think any motorcycle comes close to this. Do you?
No, not at all. This incredible motorcycle has got 6 cylinders, 24 valves, even says it on here, double overhead cam, 24 valves, to remind you of what you're riding. It truly is an incredible beast. But it sounds just like a Formula One car that would have been driven by the likes of Niki Lauda, James Hunt and Emerson Fittipaldi. You have to hear this thing to believe it.
Now, as I mentioned in the intro, you could win this very motorcycle with the Classic Competition Company. Now, if you click the link in the description and head to their website, they are selling tickets for this bike for about $2.99 a ticket, and you can get 15% off your order by using our code Mr. Darcy1, which I'll put on the screen now. So I would not want to miss an opportunity to win something as incredible as this, and for such a little price, why not? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, totally. Do it. It's just worth every flipping penny of $2.99. Was it $2.99?
Yeah, $2.99 a ticket.
Do
so
it, honestly.
I think you can buy up to 500 tickets, but
if you won this bike, it would make your entire life. It is so good.
I know. I'd love one of these.
Well, let's talk about the bike and what it's like.
Yes. When I was speaking with the Classic Competition Company about which motorcycle they would lend us first, when they mentioned it was a CBX 1000, I almost fell off my chair, because this is a bike I've always wanted to even just see in person, because it's so iconic and it's known very well as being the best sounding bike ever made, or at least one of. And this is a bike that colleagues of mine used to show me when I worked in a motorcycle dealership, and ever since I've been in awe of this machine. And every now and again I'd go back to those videos to hear what this exhaust sounds like. So to be able to ride one of these in the flesh is something else.
Yeah, it's an experience. And it's all about this wonderful engine and exhaust system, which we'll go into now.
Coming on to this unbelievable engine, it's got 6 cylinders, 6 carburetors, and it's 1000cc. The exhaust is beautiful, it's a work of art. This one has got a new exhaust system. It's got 6 exhaust headers, but this is a 3-into-1 on either side. So you've got 3-into-1, 2 separate exhausts for each half of the engine. And there's a few videos I've seen online with people with different exhaust setups. I know Harry's garage, his motorcycle's got 6-into-6, so 1-into-1 on each cylinder. There's a few other videos with people with a 6-into-1 exhaust system, which probably makes it sound more like a car than a motorcycle. But the sound this produces is unreal. I've never seen a motorcycle turn as many heads as this does. Every high street you go down, 90% of the people walking down it will stop in their tracks to turn around and look at this bike. Half of them will be waving at you, smiling, turning around, looking out their windows to see what on earth is going past them.
So back in 1980, when this bike was made, I was at senior school in year 4, which they now call 6, 7, 8,
10.
9, year 10. I have to think about that. And just imagine this motorcycle driving around when I was still at school. And it's just made so beautifully. You've got a proper mudguard, decent brakes. They're not amazing brakes, but they're good for the day. Lovely big fuel tank, a wonderfully comfortable seat for 2-up riding, and you've got this little cubby box here. You put a key in and you can store a few things in there. That's really useful to have. The riding position is really nice. The rake and the trail, interestingly, are not as steep as modern bikes of this type, and for me this is much better. It gives you a much more stable ride and it's not so twitchy and wanting to turn in so much. It's not so much about cornering like a modern sports bike, it's all about straight line speed and power.
To be precise, the engine is 1047cc, which is 63.9 cubic inches for all your American viewers. It produces 105 brake horsepower at 9,000 RPM. This thing revs up to a red line of 9,500 RPM, and it produces 71.8 Newton meters of torque at 6,500 RPM. So it likes to be revved. It's a revvy kind of engine. And there's a lot of modern bikes which are much quicker than this. In its day, this was probably the fastest bike, production bike, when it came out on the road. Nothing was faster until Kawasaki came along with something else which had 120 odd horsepower. It was a battle for who had the most powerful bike back then. But the beauty of this is that it's actually quite usable. Even though it's an old bike now, it's very usable. The suspension is nice and soft, but not too soft, so you can go down these country lanes and not have a really sore bottom, which if you ride any of the modern naked bikes or sports bikes, the suspension's so firm that they're pretty much unusable where we live in the English countryside with terrible roads. You can't open up the speed, whereas this, you can utilise every single bit of its power and you'll have a massive grin on your face, ear to ear, when you do so, because it's like a musical instrument. This is something that you tune with your hand, with the throttle, to get exactly the exhaust tone you want out of it. It's so joyous doing that. And going back to saying about modern bikes, even the Triumph Speedmaster, which we have on loan at the moment, feels faster than this, and it's got more torque, and it's certainly more snappy than this, which is kind of crazy, but this is all you would ever need. It really is, and it's so usable.
Now, talking about modern bikes, what we've noticed, a lot of bikes have very snappy throttles these days. This doesn't. So you've got a cable throttle and it's got quite a long range of motion, and it's not in the least bit snappy, so you can roll on the power very smoothly, which is a joy, because modern bikes do sometimes just get annoying because they're so snappy, especially in traffic. Starting this motorcycle is a little different from a modern motorcycle. You turn the fuel on here on the left below the tank, turn the key on in the centre, and you've got a choke on the left handlebar for when it's cold, and then you turn the on-off switch here on the right handlebar, and just below it there's a starter button, and when you fire this bike up you hear that starter motor turning and all those cylinders moving, and you know something amazing is about to happen.
The styling of this motorcycle I think is rather pretty, but it's very of its time. You can tell it's a sort of late 70s, early 80s motorcycle, but everything is designed for practicality, like this little cubby hole on the back, as well as design and looks. You've got a lovely shape fuel tank, which is rather large, so you can fit plenty of petrol in there, and the engine is of course the main talking piece of this bike. It's also a stressed member of the chassis because, well, it's so big that they couldn't really design a frame to go around it, so they were kind of forced to make it a stressed member of the chassis. The headlamp is beautiful, really nice. The mudguard works. The wheels are a nice shape, very nice. The analog dials are lovely, very of the time. And with a modern sports bike, you've got these displays and electronic rev counters. But I think the analog rev counter on the right here adds to the sense of occasion of this bike. It's really fun to look down and see that you're going up to 9,000 RPM, and when you change gear it pings back down and you see it rev up again. It's part of the experience, and you don't get that with a modern digital display. I must also mention that this competition draws on the 30th of June, so there's not much time left to enter the competition, so make sure you get your tickets before it's too late. We've also stopped outside Hambleton Hall today, which is a beautiful hotel and restaurant. It's quite something, it's really magnificent, so thanks to them for letting us film outside the front today. But back to the bike, the handling is superb. It's really easy to ride actually, and I was a bit worried that it would be a bit of a handful being such a sort of menace of a bike, but it is actually really easy to ride. And what I like about it is how analog it is. Because of its time, you've obviously got cable clutch, and when you compare it to a modern Honda, which the clutch is almost non-existent, this is much nicer because you've got a lot of feel to it. There's a lot of feel, you can feel everything that's going on in this bike. You can hear the cylinders going up and down. The gearbox, it's got a lovely positive feel into every gear, whereas the modern Hondas do lack feel very much. So this is totally where Honda should be going, and they need to make some more modern classics with old school styling, because they haven't got anything in their current lineup. They've got the CB350 Highness, which we don't get in this country, which is a shame. But I think we need to see a lot more. Like the CB, what was it, 1100 something? I can't remember exactly what it was, but that was a beautiful bike. I think that was something to do with emissions, why they had to stop doing that bike. But we need more like that from Honda. So Honda, if you're watching this, pull your finger out.
This motorcycle is the king of the jungle of its time. It's the lion, it has the loudest roar, it was the fastest and most amazing bike of its day.
But it still has just as much road presence today as it did in 1980. It really does command the respect of all the others on the road, and it's something that everyone can look up to and still appreciate as much as they did back then. It's something else. So for your chance to win this bike, don't forget to click the link in the description and use our code, and hopefully one of you will win this motorcycle. But we're hoping to do another video with this bike at some point within the next week or so. So we'll see you on the next one.